call. Everyone knows me. I'm assuming I'm Rue. We're flying from the Meadery. So this week is Halloween week at Low Mill. And for Witch's Day, a couple of years ago, the event manager asked me, did I have something real to bring to the table for Witch's Day because he was tired of the Disney witches. So I said to him, let's do a Wicker Man. And he was all about that. So since then, we have been building on that. First being a very gentle public appearance, like it's a goddess cleansing ritual ceremony, a goddess cleansing ceremony, and now we have gone into full-fledged ritual mode this year. It'll be the first time that we go full-fledged ritual mode. And so I wanted to bring a little more authenticness to the table. So when my friend Steven suggested that we contact Karin Dahlstrom from Florida, who is a traditional vulva, to come and join us. I thought that's a great idea. So I asked Karin, and she says, yes, I would love to come. So while she's here, I asked her to present her introduction to Trolldom, which I sat in on during Cauldron Fest earlier this year, and absolutely blew me away. So I am really pleased to have Karin here to present that to you and impart her knowledge, and you can absorb some of her energy. And then tomorrow she is going to be doing some rune castings. I think I have one spot left, and it will be private. It's in the sales room with the door closed, so no one can hear you. She's helping out with the Wicker Man, and then on Saturday she'll be joining Jay Meeks at the group table for his Truth Office hours for just general Norse mythology, lore, and magic chat, just informal chatting. All right. So, without further ado, Karin Dahlstrom.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, thank you. This is my favorite thing to talk about. It is my passion. I love it. And this place is stunning. I don't know if you all realize how blessed and fortunate you are to have a place like this. It's far and few between, and it's absolutely stunning. So, without further ado, Trolldom or Trolldommer. What is it? Trolldom is the ancient Scandinavian practice of folk magic. And while there are similarities to other ancient cultures, because we're all human and we kind of at base have similarities, there is a different cultural flavor to it, mostly because of the environment and the isolation that the circumpolar peoples had, separated from the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. So, really quick, just about me. I am apprenticed by Johannes Gorbach, and I meet with him regularly in Sweden. He is the one who wrote the book Trolldommer. He comes from a lineage of teachers who practice, as did my family. So I've been working with Johannes for a few years now, and the thing about Trolldom is there's something so special about it that triggers ancestral memory. Whether you know your heritage or not, there's something about it that just seems so familiar, and as you begin to practice it, you realize, I already do this. I naturally did that. I know that. I understand that. It connects so deeply to our DNA. And like I said, it is a heritage practice or a cultural practice, but that does not mean that you need to be of that culture or heritage to practice it. It flavors the practice, which makes it unique, but you do not have to be of Scandinavian descent. It's not closed that way. So, I recommend this book, and there's 3 basic things that I want to touch on about Trolldom tonight, and that's what is it, why is it unique, and how does it actually help us? And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me, because there's so much. I know that I will forget so many things, and of course I'll get distracted, and my adult ADD will take me on tangents, and I'll totally forget what I was going to talk about in the first place. So what I brought with me were some tools. Basically, I had an office space that, I don't know, maybe it was 15 by 15, and the entire space was like this. It was very powerful, very anchored with a lot of things that I inherited. My dad's family is Swedish, so I worked as an artist in Sweden and would go back and forth and visit family, and so I learned a lot of the familial magic from my own family before I was apprenticed by Johannes. And I inherited quite a lot of tools, but as you know, we just got this hurricane, and so my office is no more. Fortunately, I was able to save everything except for some of my books, which are replaceable someday. But I have to admit, I feel a little like I don't know where my brain is, because that was my brain. It was my brain, and now it is no more. Part of it's in the garage, part of it's, in my bedroom, part of it's in the hallway. So I brought some of the things that I could on the plane that I didn't think they would arrest me for, or, think I was a psychopath serial killer. So not a lot of skulls, not a lot of bones. And of course, one of the main things in the role of a vulva, which I will also touch on, because there's a lot of misconceptions about that in the Norse community too. A lot of people think if you do Norse magic, and you're a female presenting, that you are a vulva, and that's not exactly really accurate either. But one of the main characteristics is the staff. Having a staff or a wand, and of course I couldn't bring that on the airplane either. So, trolldom, what is it? Well, trolldom kind of refers to a jurisdiction, the area of the trolls, like a kingdom, trolldom. So it is the area or the aspect of the trolls. But what is a troll? We, of course, especially in the West, and even in Scandinavia, in a lot of ways, associate trolls with, gnomes, and they're cute, or they're little monsters, or if you're familiar with Norse mythology, you associate it with the Jotun, and, they're the, that type of magical, energetic being that is destructive or more forceful. But that's actually inaccurate. Trolldom is very specific, really, to Sweden. Now, why we have people who practice and develop trolldom in Finland and Denmark and Norway as well, because for many, many years, those countries were all one country. And the borders would go back and forth and back and forth. So I have ancestors in my family tree that are, they were Finnish, they were Norwegian, they were Danish. Well, no, at that time, they were all Swedish. So the borders are very flexible, as are the languages. You could speak to someone in Norwegian, they could respond to you in Swedish, and you would completely both understand what each other was saying. So trolldom, or trolla, the word, really doesn't mean a big Jotun or a big, magical creature. It means to enchant or to entice. That's actually what the word troll means in Swedish, and therefore it is really swapped out for the word magic. So trolldom is Scandinavian folk magic. It's not about trolls, really, but sometimes it is. So we'll get into that in a minute. But that's basically where we get the idea of what it is. Now, people have been the circumpolar people in the Scandinavian parts of the world, which are very connected actually. If you just go around the North Pole, northern Canada, Siberia, a lot of the DNA is mixed. I know I have Yakut Siberian DNA in small percentages just because the migratory peoples, that's what they did. They went around the pole. They didn't look at it like, oh, there's latitudes and longitudes. It was like, hey, there's a walrus, let's go over there and get it. We don't care what place that is. So there is that isolation of these types of people. The thing with trolldom is it is kind of really taken on and developed during the Middle Ages. And the reason why is, you might guess, the Catholic Church. So, going back to how many people, or how long people were on the Scandinavian Peninsula. People have existed, they believe now, through findings in archaeology, that people have been on the Scandinavian Peninsula for about 12,000 years. And, you know, we're always learning more all the time. We're always finding more grave burials. And, you know, it's like if you see one cockroach, you know that there's thousands in the wild. You find one burial, that doesn't mean that's exactly how it was. There's so many burials that you didn't see that you'll never find. So we are learning more all the time. But we figure about 12,000 years people have been on the Scandinavian Peninsula. They were very isolated, so they were able to sew into their own beliefs the way they approached spirituality, gods, spirits, each other, for thousands and thousands of years. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until, I believe, and you might correct me on this, I think it was the 50s or 60s when you could actually start to drive to Sweden. You had to go by ferry, by boat. It wasn't even accessible. My grandmother used to go to school on skis. My uncle drowned in Lake Vättern on his way to work, ice skating to work. Very isolated, very harsh climate, and that, in a way, preserved things. Even when Christianity, and I'm not here to bash Christianity, I'm just telling facts from a historical point of view, not a moral or judgmental point of view. Even when Christianity supposedly converted the Scandinavian countries, Sweden was the last country to convert. And for hundreds of years, nothing changed. It was just a political way to be able to approach trade and tariffs and taxes. It had nothing to do with spirituality. As a matter of fact, leading into what I touched on before I got distracted, was about it being in the Middle Ages is when we really see trolldom taking off. And, you know, you'll have little nippy critics who think they know everything on social media and be like, that's not an ancient practice, they didn't even start in the Middle Ages. That's when we start to see it preserved and written down. But these are things that are ancient, that have been around as long as there have been people. And what did I say? 12,000 years they've been there, so, you know, who knows how long some of these practices go back to. They are very old and very ancient. So, in Sweden, when the Catholic Church began to take over, it really was the priests who were able to preserve all of the magical teachings. As a matter of fact, some of the most powerful wizards, sorcerers, were priests and bishops in the Middle Ages. They were called a priest and a bishop because a king said, yeah, we got to do this now so that we can trade with other countries. So you were, you know, the magic guy in your area. You're a priest now, though, just so you know. You're going to do that as well. So they were like, fine, sure, more text, more things more power. Because unfortunately, in a lot of craft, including folk practices, a lot of it is about power. And that's something we need to always kind of, well, let's put it this way. I feel that we should always kind of internalize and check our motives sometimes. You might not feel that way. Knock yourself out. Do what you want to do. But I know that that is oftentimes an attraction, and is something that, for instance, women, the only thing they had to turn to try to fight for themselves and protect themselves. And so they found power in there. So priests were the keepers of the magic of the ancient ways for hundreds of years. Even when we see rune tombstones erected, and so went off to the Middle East and died, and this monument is for him by his wife, written in runes, etched and carved into the stone. Oftentimes you'll see a cross with a Mjolnir. They had no problem with it for hundreds of years. Christianity was very hands-off. It was all focused in Rome. They didn't care as long as they were getting power and money out of it. They really didn't care what people in the North were doing. They certainly didn't care if they had a sincere conversion to Christ. They just, that was not their concern. So these practices continued, and they were kept safe by people who were learned and able to write things down. You know, if you dabble in Norse paganism or Norse mythology, you know all about Snorri Sturluson and how, oh, well, he wrote that, but it's Christian influenced, and so you can't really take that for da-da-da-da-da. That's always an argument, but the point is, we have what we have because of what these people did and how they wrote it down, and maybe they changed it to fit a narrative so they weren't burned at a stake. Who can blame them? Then that's what they did. So a lot of trolldom comes out in the Middle Ages. And you'll notice if you read, this is not, for a long time it was the only book in English that you could get on trolldom. There are tons of Svart book, which are called black books. And that's the official name of magic books in Sweden and in Scandinavia. They're called black books, and they were kept at churches and used by the clergy in Old Norse and in Old Norwegian and Old Swedish. So, but for a long time, this was the only one. So, I mean, obviously, I'm recommending this because this is my magical lineage. But you might find something that you feel is more easily adapted to you and that you connect with, which is completely fine. So, it prospers in the Middle Ages, and you'll see in this book a lot of the spells and workings. They say, Mother Mary blessed the design in the name of the Son and the Father and the Holy Spirit. Well, we know that a few hundred years before that, it would have been, Odin, Thor, and Yngve Frey, or Vilive and Odin. And it was just simply changed to Christian names. The beauty of trolldom is this. It is above all of that crap. It's above deities and religions. Whatever your connection is, trolldom can be applied because it's about the self and the soul. If you connect to that light bulb in the lantern lamp hanging from the ceiling, and I love that, I worship that, and that light bulb is my thing, and I commit, and I'm sworn to that, and fine, trolldom can work for you because that's your authenticity. Whatever your authenticity is, That's such a beautiful thing because especially in Norse paganism, we have a lot of yucky things rearing ugly heads. Very limited points of view on who is Norse, what is the history. Limited and put in a box. It must be this way. You must be blood this. And we all know where that got us in the last century. This is the plague of humanity, that it always rears its ugly head every so often. It's about ignorance and it's about fear. And it's about fearing you'll lose power. Once again, power. It all goes back to that. Trolldom is extremely empowering because it is so adaptable. There will be spells that are old, and will say, take this herb, take that. I'll give you one for an example. So you take a cup or a plate, and you take some fresh honey, the sweetest honey in the meadow that you can find. And then, now this would have been a later spell because it involves a candle, and for most of Scandinavian history, they didn't have candles. They didn't even have beeswax. There was a certain type of plant that they would use as for wick and to light. But to get back to my spell, you take that honey, you put it in, maybe you take a tea light, some type of small candle. You pour chamomile all over, sprinkle it all over the honey. That's a side note. Chamomile in Norse tradition is extremely powerful. We look at it like, oh, that's just sleepy time tea and you need to chill and have some chamomile. I mean, I'm always like, I don't want that. Give me some hard stuff. I want caffeine. I need whatever. But in Norse tradition, chamomile is one of the more powerful herbs, which I think is amazing. They do everything opposite, and I think that attracts me, and I love that as well, because it's so unpredictable. But you pour this powerful chamomile, sprinkle it in the honey, and then for 5 nights in a row, you wait for this candle to burn down. And at the end of the 5th day, the person that you wanted to fall in love with you will be in love with you. Now, this is how trolldom is different. What if you don't have honey? What if you don't have chamomile? What if you don't have a candle? What if you only did 4 days? What if people are shattered because of these things that they give their power to, instead of, no, I have the power. If I want to do it for 3 days, I'm going to say I'm going to do it for 3 days. No, I want maple syrup, the sap from a beautiful tree that I leave offerings at. I think that's more powerful than that honey. You can adapt things because you are in control. It's about you and knowing what you want to do ahead of time. There's another thing in trolldom, troll bags, we call them, and I think there's a lot of similarities to trolldom and hoodoo. A lot of, and root workers. I'm not really familiar, and I don't know the deities. I know what I know really, really well. I don't know a lot about other pantheons and stuff, so I apologize. But I know that they have little bags that they charm and do things and they protect, and you wear it. Likewise in trolldom. Yes, right. Gree. So with troll bags, it's all about you thinking what you're doing. Am I going to talk out loud when I put items in my troll bag? Or am I going to remain silent? Am I going to put 9 of a certain item in there? Or am I going to do 3 different items so that it equals 9? 9 is huge in trolldom. When I tie the bag off, does it matter what direction I'm going to tie it off at? Am I going to speak when I tie a knot? You think about it and you decide, yeah, this is where the power is. This is what I'm going to do. And then you approach and execute the working. the craft or the spell. This really shows you Scandinavian thought, because that is Scandinavian mindset. The way they think, the way they express themselves. It's a different type. There's something in Sweden called the law of Jantelagen, and it's about just enough, I guess is the best way to interpret it. It means just enough. Now in America, we're all about get as much as you can. If you can get 10 are on sale, get all 10. You only need one, but get the 10 because they're on sale. We have a totally different approach to the way we collect and the way we build our fortresses around ourselves. They don't. They're like, I just need one. I don't want. It's just a totally different way of thinking, and that is also expressed in this ancient magic and was preserved because they were so isolated for so long. Now, one of the beautiful things about being in America is we get lots of little different traditions coming in, and you get, we know about gree bags, and we know about this, and we know about that, and it's amazing all the wonderful things you can learn. But there's also something really powerful about being preserved and isolated for so long, because you see the authenticity of it. And it really does, as I said in the beginning, trigger some type of ancestral memory within us. So, troll bags is another thing. Incenses, candles, all the things you would see in other practices, trolldom has, of course, but it's very specific to that environment. For instance, a lot of people clear with sage, white sage. I know there's a big argument about that going on in a lot of circles here in America. We didn't use that in Scandinavia. We used juniper, we used sharved, which is a type of wood dipped in resin or wax that you would light as a torch to clear things. Pine, nettle. Use what's around you. If you're here and you live here in the area, what's in your area? You want to do your craft? What's local to you here? That actually will give you more power. And that brings me to another part that I want to touch on about trolldom. We talked about what is it. We talked a little bit about why is it unique, because they're isolated. But how is it helpful to you? How it is helpful to us now. And I'm not, trying to convert people, because that's like a whole mindset of cultural religion in the states that we have. I'm just saying how it is beneficial. Is it directly puts you in contact with the landvetter, which are the land spirits. Now, we are deity obsessed in America because of cultural Christianity. If you were not raised in a religion, you had nothing to do with it, you're still affected by cultural Christianity because of your environment. You can't help it. It's where we live. People come into Norse paganism all the time, and they're like, I worship Odin, and I worship this one, and I'm sworn to this goddess, or I'm da-da-da-da. And I'm not putting that down, because you are American, and that is part of your culture, so maybe that makes one feel good expressing themselves that way. I'm just saying, from the ancient Norse perspective, deities were on the back burner. They weren't, they were just other beings. It wasn't this big God who created the whole universe, and he is perfect, and he is a he, and he is all-knowing, and omnipotent, and da-da-da-da, I'm gonna judge you. The Norse deities, that isn't how they were approached. As a matter of fact, much more time was spent on the ancestors. you wanted to impress them, not Odin or Freyr or Tyr or Freya. You were more worried about your dead dad or your dead mom, or that is what was occupying your mind. And so the Landvetter are kind of an umbrella type of term for nature spirits, ancestral spirits, weather spirits. As a matter of fact, Jotun, I guess if you directly translate Old Norse, Jotun means giant. But really, when you go dig, the roots of that really comes down to outsider or others. Jotuns were something else. They were others. They were different. They were, so that's a bit scary. Deities were others. As a matter of fact, it was known that the Swedes made gods out of mere men. That is written down. I don't think it was Saxo Grammaticus who said it. I think it was the Arab, I always forget his name, I'm so sorry, but whatever. One of those guys said, oh my God, the Swedes, they make a god out of a mere man, and that is the god Freyr. Yngvi Frey was a king, was a person, and we definitely would deify people who we know once they died were still alive. As a matter of fact, offerings were still made. Gifts were still given. Please keep blessing us, even though you're dead and you live in hell now. You live in the ground. You live in your burial mound. We still need you to help us out. And so the whole concept of deities is approached in such a different way. Likewise, the land spirits, the Landvetter. Trolldom is very much about connecting you with your ancestors and the spirits of the land where you live now. Now, what does that mean? Because most of us are newer, only the past few hundred years in this part of the world. What does that mean? How do these land spirits feel about what we do? How do we approach them? Do we approach them like an Irish land spirit or a land spirit in Japan? How about we approach them the way they are? It's a totally different thing. So it helps you become aware. It helps you become more considerate and hospitable where you are living, which in turn will bless you more and make your life better. Because if you're not swimming upstream against entities, but they're working with you, things go a lot smoother. That hurricane came close to Category 5. I never lost power. I was a direct hit, never lost power. Not one shingle off my roof. Hell all around me. I should have really expanded that protection a little bit more because everybody had to come to me for help, and it was like, craziness. But they will work with you. They want to work with you. When we had our house built, I went to that land and I first apologized to it. And I said, first of all, I know you were probably stolen from somebody, so I'm really sorry about that. I'm assuming I'm contributing to the problem. I don't really know how to make amends for this, but I want to leave you an offering, and I want to tell you that I respect you, and I want you to be at peace. And I made offerings, and there's this little pond. I live with my daughter and my son-in-law, and they built the house, actually. There's this little pond behind the house, and a huge, massive alligator showed up in there like that week. And that alligator spirit, I know, is my protector. it received those blessings, and it was like, yeah, I know it's not directly your fault, but you know what I like about you? I like that you even tried. I like that you even care. So I'm gonna show you, yeah, I'm gonna work with you. It's hard to undo unfairness and unjustness, and it's not an easy fix, but we can start with showing respect. So there's two things about trolldom, and I'm so sorry, I'm just like lecturing and not giving anybody a chance to ask me any questions. But I don't even know what time it is. What time is that? How long have I been talking? 3 hours?
6:36.
6:36? Okay. Two things that I really, if there's two things to really get across with trolldom, more than anything else, is one, it's a silent practice. You're really not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk during it. You're not supposed to tell people your troll formulas or your spells, the words you do. If you share them, they're no good for you anymore. So if you're going to share it, know that that can benefit someone else, but it's probably not going to work for you. There's actually certain things you can do, like if you step on the person's foot and hold their left hand while you're sharing it, then it still works for you. You know, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. But for instance, a lot of this stuff in here, I'm sure Johannes doesn't use personally anymore. He has passed this on to other people, because once you do that, it takes the power away from you. The thing is, it's as vast as your own imagination, so you never run out of things. Your imagination is what makes it work. I think I want to use a red thread, and I want to tie it on this tree branch on a Thursday night during a wind that's blowing from the north, and I think, and that will work because you're feeling that. So it's very personalized, very much that way, but it's a silent practice. One thing, if you have a mentor, they will tell you, shut up, keep your mouth shut up. So that's one thing. The other thing is hospitality. This is huge in Scandinavian culture as well. Being hospitable, not just you offering hospitality, but while you're receiving hospitality, it is just as important how you respond back to the host. The word hospitality is at the foundation of everything in trolldom. Are you being respectful of the land? Are you being respectful